Like I was so deep, I was into quantum mechanics and like the double slit experiment and all these things. And I went as far as I possibly could. I watched the Discovery Channel, the History Channel. I knew like everything I could find. And it always left me wanting more. I
Sure.
always left, it was always like they were just getting me close enough to finding some truth. And then they would just leave me really upset. And it was when I met Jason and I had already figured out that I had filmed and I pointed out, hey, wait a minute, something's going on. There's clouds in front of and behind the sun and the moon. And that's when I started working with Jason here on YouTube. And he asked me, have you ever thought of maybe that you were in a virtual reality? And so my question to you, do you have that moment that you realized that you were in a virtual reality?
The one that got me was and you look up on Wiki, it's neuroscience and free will. And that was another one of those weird experiments that the scientists came up with. And what they did was they said there's a little timer up in the corner, right? So it's like pick a number between 1 and 9. And you say 6, right? And you hit that number. And it was almost instantaneous, right? What was interesting about that was when the person chose it, the computer knew 8 seconds before you did it. And that goes into a whole nother thing, which is predestination, which is you may not be even living in a interactive virtual reality. You may be living in a pre-record virtual reality. In fact, I'll use a line from The Matrix, which was when he was talking to the Oracle in the park, and she wanted him to make the choice whether or not to save Trinity. You know, he goes, I can't make that choice. She goes, no. She goes, you don't understand. You've already made it. You're here to understand why you made it. And people just really miss that one. It's like, no. I mean, that is predestination.
So, we're Christians and we go to the Bible and we try to get as much out of it as we can. And there's definitely some things talked about in the Bible that seem like things were forecast to go a certain way, and there's guardrails in place.
Right.
We all seem to be able to make choices within a certain group of parameters.
Right. When it comes to predestination, you may get like a lot of games, right? You get fork in the road, you have to choose left or right, and but I think the template is set up for you, like you mentioned, with the guardrails in place. There's only so far you can go one way or the other. The path is never, you can't go so far off into the weeds you run into the barrier type thing.
You get all these scientists and physicists and astrophysicists. Elon Musk is saying that basically the only way mankind can survive is if we actually inhabit 2 planets, he's saying. So that way, if an asteroid comes and takes out one, there's a better chance of us surviving on the other. When we look out into the universe, there's no evidence of anything but twinkling lights.
Once you get up to 30,000 feet, those twinkling lights are gone. You would think that you'd be able to see them better, but no, all of a sudden you're above them.
And so what we really have is little to almost no complete understanding of who we are and where we are if we go down the path of modern day science. And what we need to understand is that this existence is actually a supernaturally based life where we're evolving eternally through reincarnation. And the job here is to evolve and work on ourselves. It's not to have fantastical ideas of, traveling to these other solar systems. In actuality, we should be taking care of each other in this realm.
This whole thing with Earth being a virtual reality, for you and I, we think it's great news that you're not atomic stardust, that as soon as you die, that you're going to dematerialize and become nothingness. Once you're in a virtual world, then all of a sudden you can understand reincarnation. You can understand being reborn again. So that's what you expect in virtual worlds. We also know from the Bible that these bodies weren't meant to die. That originally the bodies Adam and Eve had, they weren't going to die. That death was a result of sin. So we were given these types of mortal bodies that you have to learn to become a good steward of your body in order to maintain health and a longer life. So the idea of Earth being a virtual reality, I'm excited to get back to that immortal body. That's what the creator of this world has said we're going back to. The last 6,000 years has been a test to see how mankind would do once they fell out of believing that there was a creator. And that didn't really happen until the whole space propaganda thing took place in like the 1850s. So we're at a very unique time in the world where we have the technology to be able to see things like clouds behind the sun, where we're be able to zoom in on things and see what's taking place. They're actually all proof of Earth being a virtual reality. So